And again, as a frontline figure in the promotion of democracy, human rights, good governance in Liberia and beyond, what in your view can be done to deepen democracy across the continent, given the some of the things we've seen across some of the sub-regions and what we're experiencing, and how the ECOWAS and other members and other regional bodies are doing to ensure the deepening of democracy? What in your view should also be done to ensure that we continue to practice democracy in its truest form?
I'm afraid I don't have a short-term fix for this. I think what we need to embark upon is a healthy system of education. We need to increase our literacy rates up. We need to get our populations more in tuned with what democracy really is. I don't think our people are exercising the right kinds of power in terms of how they vote and in terms of what they expect of their lawmakers. You have to be able to expect that the lawmaker is not only there to pay your rent when you need it.
Yes.
That the lawmakers, you must hold us accountable to some of the laws we raise our hands and pass. You must be able to pay attention to some of the debates that we're getting into. You must be able to fashion a vote for a person as a lawmaker, not just because he came by your house and gave you a bag of rice, but because you have studied it and he has made a presentation that have you convinced that he will do an excellent job as a lawmaker. Because the way to protect the democracy is, you got to have people who have the capacity to be able to make the case, especially in the legislature. It's in the legislature that you have where things may break down, because the executive is always fighting for more power.
Yes.
It is the resistance of the executive from the legislature that's what balances the democracy.
Yes,
otherwise, you give everything to the executive, and then when the executive screws up, that's the end of the ball game. So I think building our human capacity and our people understanding of this democracy we have is going to be the best thing for us.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, education, as they say, is the leveler. It is what equates, it is what gives you the capacity to really interrogate, like you said, policies, programs, and ask questions, and like you say, hold leaders accountable to decisions they make on your behalf. Because ultimately, the legislature is the greatest, base of the people. So they are actually the ones that should ask the right questions. And if the citizens are not asking those questions, are not holding their leaders accountable, then democracy will collapse. And I totally agree with you on that front. Now, like in other parts of the world, the COVID pandemic and the war in Ukraine exacerbated economic hardship and led to increase in the cost of living. It's general. It's happening in France. It's happening everywhere. And so, how is the Liberian Parliament, the legislature this time, helping to ease the burden and also promote responsive policies that can mitigate the impact of this prevailing challenge that we have across the world?
Okay, so the first thing is I would give credit to the George Weah government for doing a good job in economic stewardship. But on the legislative level, we made several interventions, because when COVID-19 came, we passed a supplemental budget that was able to get direct aid to citizens. Because what we had done was, because of the lockdown, people had to get food.
Absolutely.
People had to get essential items. So the government had to pay for those items and get them delivered. So that's one of the things we did. We did intervention in rice subsidy when we had, because of the war in Ukraine, we had a rice crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to make interventions. We now have this program for rural poor women, where we give them direct mobile money transfers to their phones. That is becoming a very popular program in the interior, especially in my constituency. So those are some of the interventions the legislature make to make sure that although there are economic hardships, there are things we can do to try to ease that burden.
Amazing. I'm glad you talked about rural women and their benefits and all that.